Chris, and this is my TJ Jeep Wrangler front bumper restoration video. So all this stuff was on the Jeep when I got it. I did test this jack and make sure it worked, and it did. I already have a video of restoring those lights, so we're not going to go over those. But I am going to show the steps of taking all this stuff off, and we're going to restore everything on here and make it look freaking brand new. And I just uploaded a video of restoring that back bumper, which looked a lot like the front at first. It is January 1st, 2020 in Houston, Texas, and this is my first project for the year. It is gloomy, it's about 60 degrees and rainy, and I freaking love it. I love this weather so much, I will never understand why. The first thing we need to do is test this winch and see if it works. Now, I did buy the controller when I first got the Jeep, but I needed to go through the wiring and make sure it was connected right at the battery, and it was not. So I redid the connections at the battery, so we're safe to try it out. So one of the hardest things I've ever done was trying to identify an old winch like this. I was ignoring the sticker because it was a warning label. The freaking part number I was looking for, it was right there. Okay, and I want to thank E-Trailer right here because they were the only people that had all these Bulldog parts in stock. And I was actually able to find these things too, all from eTrailer.com. So that's a little hand controller, and I've honestly never used a winch in my life. So let's see if I can figure this out. Ooh, it works. I had no idea winch cables were that long. So if you've never used a winch before, I put it in out, and that just kind of frees it where I can pull it. I'm gonna switch it like that, and it should pull the freaking cable back in. If it doesn't, I'm screwed. Okay, so we know it works. So the first thing I did was unhook all the electrical cables. So the high lift jack is attached with these two. I've seen these for like $65 or $70 for both of them. That's a lot of money. Okay, so we got to pull these wires off the solenoids, and they all look the same. Go to the electrical supply store, and they'll have books like this, so you mark your wires so you don't mix them up. Very important to have stuff like this. When you get them marked, you take a picture with your phone so you never mix them up. I've never taken a winch off before, but it looks like it's attached to that whole big plate. I think there's only 6 screws holding it on. Let's take them off and see. So we have 2 of these on top, 1 on the bottom, and 1 15mm on that sway bar bracket. That's it. 8 bolts holding the whole freaking bumper and winch on. That's crazy. So let's go ahead and get it off. So I don't know how much that weighs right there. I do not recommend trying to pull that off by yourself. Okay, so at least we got it off and we have a starting point. We can see that all that's going to be super easy to touch up. It's in a lot better shape than I thought. All right, so that's where the cables have been rubbing. We'll touch all that up with a paint pen at the end. So if anybody knows anything about high lift jacks, let me know what the orange one is. Is that a freaking Harbor Freight or a Northern Tool? I have no idea. So the only thing holding this cable on is this one little Phillips screw. So that thing is very awkward and it's very heavy. Let's go ahead and remove the electrical stuff first. So that cable is loose. That's not good. So the winch bolts from the bottom. All right, let's get all this off. So that's the motor side. This is the gearbox side. So I'm pretty sure it's supposed to have oil in it. Let's check it out. So I just needed to see inside and make sure it didn't have water, or if it was dry. It's completely fine. We're going to go ahead and put the cover back on. They do have little brushes in there that you can check and clean, but this motor was running fine, so we don't need to mess with it. That winch checks out. So I think this is the best looking bumper I've ever seen. If somebody knows what brand it is, let me know. So let's take these wheels off and see what's going on. That's not good. More broke ones. So we're ready to start restoring. Let's go through the steps. You do greasy first. And we have one thing restored. So when you're restoring stuff, if it's something small, it doesn't always have to be perfect, because you can always go back and recoat a small part like this. All this winch is getting in bed liner, because that bed liner covers a lot. Same thing with the jack, has a lot of little sections, so if this piece gets ugly, we can always mask it off and respray that. So the big parts, they got to be painted right. All this has to go down to bare metal. Stuff like this jack, they probably just did a cheap rattle can paint job. Hopefully we can just sandblast it clean. So one process of paint remover, now we can sandblast that. It's a very stubborn sticker. Let's put some paint remover on it. The winch is going to be bedline black, so we just sandblast the chrome and put a little roughness on it. So it's been about 3 hours removing paint, and we're finally getting there. So this piece right here is the hardest to get the paint off, because it has probably like 5 different coatings on it. So I'm assuming he had that winch on another vehicle, and then when he got this Jeep, he transferred it to this, probably, because this stuff seems really old. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to touch these frames up. So I guess it was getting some surface rust, and he just took some gray primer and just sprayed all over everything. Real messy job, and it looks horrible. So we masked the paint off to protect it. We're gonna do some light sandblasting. Now sandblasting, the further you are away from the project, the lighter the blasting is. So we're not trying to get down to bare metal. We're just trying to knock off the surface rust and knock off that primer. So we're gonna hold the gun farther, and it's gonna give us a real clean surface. So we got a light sandblast on there, and I just take some lacquer flat black, and you got to be careful, because you can't have a shiny or perfectly black place. You got to blend it into the rest. So we're gonna kind of dust color on it from a distance. I mean, the whole freaking frame needs to be touched up, but you kind of see how there's not a line or anything. It just kind of blends in, and it looks a little bit cleaner over here. That's all we're doing. Now this rust can come back through it. It's just a super light coat, but it's better than how it looked before. But that's just the idea. We'll look at it when it's done. It's got overspray on the whole thing. So I'm about 8 hours in this project, and the bumper's finally in primer. This thing looked like it was powder coated more than once and had several paint jobs over the years, so I'm still not done with that one. The winch seems to be powder coated, and I got it sandblasted. We're about to prime it. All right, all the stuff out here drying. And that powder coat is reacting to the primer. Not a big deal, we'll fix it. So we got the winch and the bumper ready to spray. When you use this stuff, kind of stand back at a distance and just kind of mist it on. You want to do about 2 coats. If you do it too heavy, it's going to show up glossy, and it's not going to look right. And some good advice is, when you're doing bed liner, buy a brand new can to do your final coat, because the nozzles start gumming up and you could screw your final job up. So that's pretty much what a first coat should look like. Let's get some on this winch. So this is the bottom of the winch. That's why I'm doing my little test to see exactly what I'm gonna get. We sprayed a little too thick right there. Perfect right there. So I'm about 20 hours in this job so far. Everything is painted. Let's talk about the different paints and colors I used. So of course we got bed liner on the bumper right there, bed liner on the winch, This is a flat black, and then we're using a satin black, semi-gloss black, to kind of break these parts up a little bit, because if you just do everything in bed liner, it's just going to look like one dull blob. Okay, so a little tip if you're bed lining parts is whenever you get a little shiny spot like that, let it dry and kind of dust a little bit more over it, and you can get rid of all those little glossy places. This has about 3 light coats of bed liner. There is a glossy one right there, but you really don't see it, and I left that one on there because the license plate covers it up. So the sway bar is resprayed flat black. Sway bar linkages all flat black. Okay, so all this is semi-gloss black, but you can always bedline these parts too, and they turn out real neat. Alright, so the high lift jack is getting a flat black and a bedline handle. Okay, so the touch-up job on the frame came out real nice. Now we have an issue of these freaking places where the winch cables rubbed against and knocked the paint off. It really needs to be repainted, but since the winch goes there, we can get away with a touch-up. So I'll put some of the color on there. It really doesn't match. It says it was, but it's not. Let's just show touching these up. Okay, so we got to get the rust out of this first, mask it off. You can try steel wool, Scotch-Brite. You can hit it with a wire brush. Okay, so now we're ready to put everything back on. Let's start with the sway bar. So this is a quick disconnect stud. So quick disconnects, sway bar all hooked up. So we got to bolt the winch to that plate first. Damn, this fucking thing is heavy. So just try to get it on there as straight as possible. This one doesn't line up exactly perfect because that winch plate is not for that bumper. They drilled the holes, but we'll make it work. Okay, so all the bolts are painted semi-gloss. It's got these two that go in from the bottom. Let me get this bolted up. Okay, so the steel cable is very hard to deal with, so I went with the synthetic rope. Let's check out what I got. So I just signed up for the Amazon affiliates program, so anytime you buy something through a link, you help my channel out. So the fair lead in the cable I think is $113. There'll be links in the description. So that's what it looks like out of the box. I'm going to go ahead and put it on there because I don't know how long that's going to take. Alright, well, synthetic rope is going on there just fine. Did have to get a longer screw right there, and you got to be careful because you put that long screw in there, you got to spin it. So go ahead and put some of the rope on there first, because if you don't, it'll be hitting something in there, and if you hit it with the juice, you might rip something or break something. So get a little bit started like that if you ever wind a new synthetic cord on there. The truth is that cable is just dangerous to work with. It doesn't matter how strong you are, how many years you've been working with it. Gloves or no gloves, you can snag your freaking hand real bad on that stuff. It's still good. I'm gonna have it for sale in Houston on Craigslist. It's 100 feet, but the rollers on the fairlead need new bushings, which you might as well just get a new one. But there's nothing wrong with that cable. But 100% the synthetic rope, if you can get some of this, you could guide it in there with your hands. It just feels so much better and safer. But everything is looking super freaking clean. So you see how the frame was touched up right there? All that stuff looking sharp now. Okay, and the hooks are black now. Alright, so the black wires didn't have a problem, but all the red wires, the ultraviolet rays just broke them down to a point where they were unusable. So I sandblasted them and sprayed them with that vinyl upholstery paint, and it looks like it's going to hold up. But see, I had to make the red one black, so it's going to be red at the battery, but just to kind of hide it all. It's going to look good. Okay, so we're just going to try to put it on there as straight as possible. Okay, and I wanted to make a sticker for my channel and put it right here. Y'all let me know if you would want stickers. I would just give them away. Would you put it on your toolbox? Let me know. Alright, so that's looking real freaking sharp. It looks like a Tesla winch or something. So let me go ahead and get this thing wired up. Okay, so the farm jack just kind of covers everything up. It's just hanging out right there. So it is restored as well. Okay, see, taking the time to touch that frame up, everything looks really nice now. That winch came out real nice, got the new covers on it. But you can clearly see how beautiful it came out. It looks so freaking nice. So y'all let me know what you think about this. Did we make an improvement, and was it worth it? So it turned out beautiful, and this is a project that anybody can do at home. I just did this at my house. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.